Thank you for joining us on our exploration through the Egyptian collection that was held within the Queensland Museum. We went there at the end of November and immediately we found an error. There are errors sometimes, we'll discuss that with you, but welcome on the journey with us. It was beautifully curated and wonderfully illustrated and set out. There's my partner asking one of the mummies who's her daddy. So respectful, but we still had a bit of fun. In the foyer there was this beautiful pyramidion. Now pyramidions are the capstone, but often they're taken off the top of a larger pyramid in a temple complex and put into a sepulchre for one of the priests. And that's the situation we have here. In fact, they were trying to tell us that this illustration on there was the priest of HEKA at this temple with his hands raised in celebration. However, we can see the HEKA symbol here, and it actually means spirit coming into the realm of matter. And here's the god HEKA. Now you can see from looking at the god HEKA that that was actually an illustration of the god HEKA, and it's about receiving. Beautiful illustrations on this piece, by the way. And next door to the museum was the Queensland Gallery of Modern Art, and they had an exhibition with Horus and the Egyptian eye out the front of it. We were absolutely amazed. Not many people know that the Queensland Museum has a glass pyramid. This display was interactive, lots of projections and lots of illustrations through history. These were from the 1920s. This is a Napoleonic depiction of the Sphinx in his day. It shows how much repair, see how far it is underground, have been done. Now, this is really interesting about the Egyptian hieroglyphs. We often think of the alphabet as having 26 characters, as many alphabets do. But as you can see here with the Egyptian hieroglyphs, there were hundreds of symbols, and each of these symbols was a sacred sound of manifestation, again bringing that spirit into the realm of matter. A very important thing to Egyptian spirituality. If you get that sound created the world, created God, it goes back to their original creation myths, that there was a HEKA actually made these sounds from all that was, from the atom, and that actually started the realm of matter. You'll understand how important this HEKA is to all of creation. In fact, HEKA is like the Logos that's mentioned in John 1:1, where it says the Word was and the Word was with God. Well, HEKA is those sounds and those words of magic, and it's really interesting when you look at his headpiece to see how much it is like a tuning fork. This is why we chose the HEKA as our business logo with Magic Magazine, because words and sounds are so important and so sacred. They create. Next we have a statue of a very famous Egyptian, Tutenkamun, and we know it's Tutenkamun from the inscriptions, but not because of his head. Later dynasties actually had a habit of violating the statues from the previous dynasties to try and erase their names and faces from history. The Coptics were a Christian sect that happened much later in Egyptian history. Here we can see the layout of one of their churches that was excavated, and there were beautiful treasures found there. Everything from these tiny lamps that have been used, as you can see, through to things that were much more ancient with beautiful inscriptions on them. I really hope that you take the time to go through this exhibition while it's in Brisbane, or if it comes to your capital city, because we can't go through every inscription here with you, but all of the displays there laid out these inscriptions in detail, and imagine the work that went into all of these inscriptions. This is a really interesting piece showing that gold was used to elevate status in an Egyptian ceremony called the giving of gold, and here we have an official receiving gold from the pharaoh. Here's another pyramidion from another tomb. This was another priest who was a priest of Ra-Hakati, or the combination of Horus with the sun. The amount of repairs that have been done to the Sphinx is amazing. Oh, this is a copy of the Rosetta Stone, which allowed Egyptian hieroglyphs to be translated. Again, look at the detail in these hieroglyphs. Imagine they did this all by hand. How hard is it today to do an inscription, even though we have electronic tools to do it? These gentlemen were taken in as scribes from when they were very young, and these tiny inscriptions were done in intricate detail. But here on the Rosetta Stone, we have the translation between the hieroglyphs in Greek, which eventually made it possible for us to be able to interpret the hieroglyphs today. So this is one of the most important discoveries ever. It really was a joy to walk through this exhibition. It was so well set out, taking you back through the sands of time. And all of the little hieroglyphs on all of the capstones, on all of the bottle stoppers. This is really interesting, and I want to spend some time explaining this to you. These are called false doors, but they're not really a false door. They're actually a portal through to spirit. Any tomb or any temple would have these false doors. The inscriptions around it explain what spirit it is a portal to, or if it is a spirit portal to the afterlife. Jules, who was with us, did. She ran her hand over the top of the stone, and you could feel that this stone is still active, it's still warm, it's still alive. It's hot in places. So it is still acting as a portal that opens to spirit. In Western esoteria, if you have 4 doorways facing inwards, then automatically a portal opens to spirit. And this is what the Egyptians were using for their spirit portals at that time. So when you see these illustrated and listed as false doorways, know that they're not false doorways. They're actually some of the most real doorways that you can have. A real doorway through to another dimension, through to the realm of spirit. I love this. This shows that, just like any other civilization, Egypt went through different periods of different styles of art, and this is like a cross between Lunik and Salvador Dali. This cartoonish style artwork was about 1,000 years from what we are familiar with, which is late period stuff around Tutenkamun. As you can see, it went through some very human progressions till we get to the Greco-Roman period, where we have these beautiful and very identifiable Greek type of sculptures. This is a Stellé. Now, steles were always made for a reason, usually as offerings for the gods, but they could also be for spells. This stele was at the bottom of a statue which has been defaced, and we've lost the top of the statue. This is a detailed spell. Some steles put together family groups, as we can see here, so that the gods and posterity would remember the family groups. But usually they marked offerings to the gods either in life or on the other side, in the afterlife. Can you imagine the beautiful, vivid colours when this was first made? All of these bounteous offerings on the table to the different deities. This one shows the sister goddesses. Here we have a lot of jewellery. There was so much jewellery in this display. Anybody would be proud to wear today. It included representations of the god, like this one of Horus here. Horus was one of the major deities. They had about 2,000 deities in ancient Egypt, and each one of the deities was a representation of an aspect of nature or a scientific principle. This is what modern science doesn't get, that it's not just about myths. These animals represent an aspect of nature. That was a bat. Baboon shows man becoming civilized. The ibis was sacred because it attended garbage dumps and performed a very important function as it transitioned things away from the realm of matter. So the baboon shows that we evolved. They believed that all creatures had spirit and had come into the realm of matter for a purpose, and that these showed different aspects of the divine, which to them was aspects of science and nature around us. So these were allegory. Then we have a beautiful display of papyri. I've never seen so many papyri in one place. As you know, I use a lot of workings from the Greek magical papyri. These papyri, a lot of them were from the Book of Coming Forth by Day, which was placed in the tomb. And here we have the offerings to the different deities on the other side. This is a lovely family group. The person who passed depicted with his sister and his wife so that they would be together in the afterlife. The instructions on these little statues and on these little sarcophagi were for the spirit on the other side. So if you woke up disoriented, not sure where you were on the other side, you could read your instructions and know what to do in the duat. The duat was the place that you went before you got to heaven. This scarab was placed over the heart. These different pieces of jewellery that we find in the mummy wrappings were there to protect different parts of the spirit. There were three main parts of the spirit, the ka, the ba, and the afterlife spirit, but they were then divided into three aspects. The heart was considered the most important. Oh, here we have another spirit door, and again more offerings. These cones were stoppers of wine jugs that are inscribed with hieroglyphs. Every little aspect of everything that was found in a tomb was to tell you something about what went on the other side, so that you would have all of the opportunity to be able to get to pass your final test and enter into what we call heaven, called the Field of Reeds. This is the Dejed Pillar. The Dejed Pillar represented the spine and also the ability to climb into heaven. Different realms that were supported, so columns in a house. Here we go with the ka and the ba. Ka and the ba both dwelled inside your body. HEKA put the ka, or the life force, in there, and the ba was like your soul, your spirit, your personality. So as we start to look at these now, hopefully you'll start to get a bit of more of an understanding of these hieroglyphs. These are Shabti. Shabti was servants that were to go through with the mummified person and serve them in the afterlife. They were imaginary as well as very practical. They were to work for the spirit on the other side and also to guard them. The faience amulets, which are the blue ones, they are actually ceramic and fired blue, were used for particular reasons. And another faience set of Shabti that are there to serve and protect, like little policemen on the other side. Look at the detail on these scrolls and in these Shabtis. Here we have things that went into a coffin, a mask, a foot covering, a beard covering, all of these to go into the tomb with the person. These are the sons of Horus, and the sons of Horus looked after the canopic jars, or the internal organs that were taken out, but the heart was left inside. Now this is a very late period coffin. You can see it's detailed. It's written inside the lid, outside the lid, on top of the body. Everywhere that they could write instructions for the person on the other side. Letters of introductions to the deities was written. Here's a beautiful picture of the person inside their coffin. She was beautiful. And then we can see the foot covering and details of a gold inlaid mask. So this was all to preserve personality on the other side. A reminder for the person who had lost their body, what and who they were, and a reminder to the gods of what and who they were. This had to be my favourite one. It was so beautifully done. The colours were so vivid. No picture on the inside of the coffin lid that we could see, but that could be plaster that was put there by the museum to protect them. Look at this beautiful image of Horus. I love the soft eyes on some of these coffin cases. It's almost like saying, this is a good person. Look at the softness in their eyes. Now this shows that there were 9 different coffins. I love the story of the reconstruction of this lady who had been mummified. She was CT scanned. They did ask that nobody, out of respect for the people that had been mummified, be filmed or recorded. So I kept with that. Here's a stone coffin case with its inner casing there with it as well. The paint has come off. One of the mummies on the outside was wrapped up with these faience beads. They also had documentation of the various digs. They had letters and reproductions of those. Here is one of the workers that was working on the digs. He was a supervisor and he had the lock that they put on there. So many treasures in this museum. There was so much to look at, so much to explore. It felt a little jumbled like this to me. By going through this museum collection, you will discover something about yourself. It's not about a whole lot of dead things. It's about living people, what they believed and how they set up the sciences for our day. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed coming on this little wander through the museum with me. Please check out our merch. We're starting to put merch on our store. We have a Redbubble and a Cafe Press store. HEKA is my homeboy. There's t-shirts and all sorts of merch at our Cafe Press and Redbubble stores, as well as understanding that HEKA is the original creator, the Logos, the Word Divine. I hope you've got something out of this today, and I look forward to catching up with you again very soon. Every blessing.